Good morning to our next installment of the Divine Feminine series. And this week we are stepping into the indigenous Southwest and specifically the Diné people, which has been traditionally called the Navajo, but that is something that the colonizers named them. So I'm going to try to use the word Diné and be respectful of that. And then also the Apache too have this as well. So today we are talking about the changing woman, and I'm going to call her the changing woman because I don't know if I can pronounce this, but I did try to look up how to pronounce it. So let me go look here and I'll try to give you her correct name. Ashta Nadakhli. Ashta Nadakhli. So I think that's right. And simply that is meaning the woman who changes. So I'm going to say the changing woman, the woman who changes. And she is not only like some of these figures that we have talked about, right, are historical from a person who lived back in the day, is no longer around, is not maybe venerated anymore. Some are, some are still deities that people really look at, but this is a very actively part of their entire cosmology, their belief system, and is still actively worshipped and part of their everyday life. So that's kind of cool. So you're like, well, who is this changing woman? And I'm going to let Cassandra lead and tell us a little bit of what she learned, and then I'll share what I've also learned. But there's a very deep story, and then there's kind of like the more digestible story. And I'm going to give the nutshell, and I'll let Cassandra go into the deeper bits. But she was born on this mountain and grew up. And when she was having her first menstrual cycle, this is where we came in with uh, a ritual that came in. Uh, she had two sons that she birthed, and there's a whole story behind all of her pieces and her relationship to the son. And the son wanted her to come live with him, and she said, I'm of this earth, so if you will just build me a home in the west. And then from there she birthed the Diné people. So that's like the very shortened version, but Cassandra, I'll let you go and give the real deeper meaning into her whole story.
And I'm so excited about this story because it's like you said, we normally focus on traditions that are no longer in practice or that don't affect people to this day as much. But this is one that we finally gotten to focus on someone that is still in everyday life. She's sacred. She's a sacred figure in living tradition that affects people now. And so I'm excited that we normally in our Divine Feminine series, we kind of shed light on things that might have gone under the rug, been pushed under the rug. And this is actually kind of one of those stories because we don't focus. I hadn't heard from her. I hadn't heard of her until our little Divine series. And so I want to start with the poem that we do get from our Goddess Oracle deck. And this is the photo that they show of her in her changing winds and her changing circle. But her 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 poem says, I am what comes around again and again, what can never die. I renew myself in the seasons, in the cycle of time, the great round, I bleed yet do not die. I keep my blood within and become wise. I dance the spiral and keep changing. And so when we hear, and I think that you kind of touched on how to properly say her name the best that you could and the best that I could, Asdzą Nádleehé, the meaning, the woman who changes, she is always changing, but she never dies. Her cycle, she is the seasons. She doesn't just represent the seasons, she is. She's the spring that's born young and vital, the summer that matures into full power, the fall that grows old, the winter that dies and then is born again in the spring. And she doesn't represent change, she is the change. According to Navajo myth and Diné myth, as you mentioned, changing woman comes into being when the first man held up his medicine bundle towards the sacred mountain at dawn. Changing woman was born and was found by talking God, who brought her to first man, who raised her. She was born from infant to puberty in 4 days. And the quote that when I was listening to some of these stories, because they are all oral traditions, and I listened to a few online, my favorite says that she was found as a baby wrapped in a cloud, born for darkness into dawn. So after her coming of age ceremony, after this puberty ceremony that they had in front of the higher people, she returned and she began to grow into a woman. She was visited by the sun's inner form. As she was bathing in the sun's inner form came to her over and over and over again. And she bore two sons miraculously from this inner sun form, the monster slayer and the child of water. The twins grew into adulthood in 12 days. So they went through rapid change as well. And after they got rid of all the monsters of the world, the son asked her to come live with him in the East on his terms, but she refused. Her words were, "You are male and I am female. You are of the sky and I am of the earth. Build me a house in the West where I can receive you each evening when your work is done." And she did not follow him, but she negotiated, which I find to be an interesting trait from the first goddess deity that they experience. They get to see a feminine figure that negotiates on her own terms. She didn't follow him, so the son built her a house floating on western waters made of turquoise and shell. He comes to her each evening and stays rooted to the earth, while she stays rooted to the earth and he represents the sky. But because she kind of grew lonely on those western waters, she took parts of her shedding skin, parts of herself as she was growing, the dead skin cells, and she created 8 people, the 4 men and 4 women that started the Diné people. So she was the creator goddess. She created maize, which is also the most essential food source for these people. And she made her people from what was falling away from her. So she took pieces of herself and created, which to me, whenever I was also researching her, showed the fluidity of this woman. If we are created from this mother goddess, from this earth goddess, then her gender is also a bit fluid, right? After she gave birth to these people, they started celebrating her in coming of age ceremonies, including the Canalda, and I could be saying that wrong, so I apologize if I am. But in that coming of age ceremony, the girls dress in turquoise and white shells as they become the changing woman. As they reach their puberty, they become the changing woman that then moves on and learns and grows and changes with the seasons. They grind corn for cake that's baked overnight in a pit. And once they actually pull this cake out, they give it to everyone as a part of generosity, learning that generosity is a part of who they are as a growing and changing woman. They don't get to have any of the cake for themselves. They only give it to the others. Then when the morning comes and the cake is given out to everyone, they actually move into their cycle of becoming women. The cake represents Mother Earth, the girl represents changing woman, and the earth that's turned into food. So we see in that ceremony that they take something from the earth and they change it and transform it into something that can be given to people. And every figure that we've studied and so far that have been suppressed and reframed, the changing woman represents something completely different. She represents something that is still alive. And that to me was incredibly exciting. But like I said, when I heard the stories of her, what I heard was that she wasn't just a woman that understands and knows all people. She's a woman that understands man. And she represents men that understand women. So it's the idea that there's also gender fluidity within us too, that comes from this changing woman, this woman of cycles, this woman of change. She is the seasons, she is the cycle, and she negotiates and still wins, which to me represents all kinds of different things. But those are the things that I learned about the changing woman. So I'm excited to hear what you learned too, Deb, because all of these oral traditions have so many different types of stories. And what I found, like these were the main sources for mine, but what did you find?
Quite similarly, the same stories, the same oral traditions, and the fact that this ceremony, this coming of age as a young woman, is continued today, like practiced today. It is part of their culture. And so I'm like, what are my key talking points that I want to take from this changing woman? And I love in her origin story that she's this baby found and born on the mountain, and that she was aging a year, like she was
Every
just
day.
aging a year every day. Like she just aged and aged very quickly. And so her first year of life, she went through all these changes. And sometimes, especially in Western society, the focus is on you have to be youthful, you have to look young. Don't let your hair grow gray, let your hair, dye your hair. Try to present yourself as the youngest version of you. And why is that? Who is that benefiting? Who is that benefit for? Who are we trying to look so young for? We're not trying to look young for ourselves. We're not trying to look young for other women. We're trying to look young for an audience of men that, yeah, Christina, that desire that. And so, what I love about her message today is that you are fully you. So, she embodies these transforming stages of life, which follow the four seasons, right? And she does it without loss. She is not less at any of those stages of change. She goes through all four seasons. She dies in winter and reappears spring, new and young, and then moves along. She's never gone. She dies, but she is never gone. She returns. She's still young. She's still whole. And the lesson is we're going to go through change. We're going to go through changes. We're going to go through hard parts of life. And it doesn't erode who I am to age and change and go into a next season of my life. I am always constantly fully me. And I think this is also similar to the moon, right? The moon is perfectly showing us these phases. And this morning, Mina had picked the mug of the day as the mug that says it's just a phase. And I was looking at the
Perfect.
moon last night, and it was just a sliver in the sky and not even a quarter yet. And it was low in the horizon. So that was glowing like orange. It was just glorious. And just because I'm only visually seeing the illuminated sliver, the moon is still fully who she is. When there's no light reflecting off her, she's fully herself. When she's the full moon, the fully illuminated moon, she's still herself. There's no part of that she has lost a part of herself. The moon is constantly who she is. So I think a huge key that I took away is that transformation is not loss. Change is to be celebrated, and they celebrate this change of youth into womanhood, right? But we are celebrating every way, every step, fully and completely ourselves. So that's like my first takeaway I really got from.
Yes.
The second key is this, like you were talking about, claiming her own ground. When the sun is like, hey, I want you to come live with me in the sky, right? She didn't merge into his world to have some kind of a peace, right? She says, no, I want my own house in the West because I am of the earth, right? Born on the mountain of the earth. And he was of the sky, and they were equal but distinct. And she was not going to change who she was. There is changing. Hear this message. There is change, but you don't have to change who you are, the core of your wholeness, to to satisfy anybody else or anything else. Do you see what I'm
Yes.
saying there? Like there is the change in the seasons of her life. But she's like, no, we are equal but distinct. I am of the earth. So stay rooted in your nature, right? But you're going to change and flow through that nature of who you are. You have this inner relationship with yourself from your first, I say this all the time, from your first breath to your last. Who is going to be in your life with you but you, right? At your first breath, the woman, the mother who birthed you, that woman will not be there likely at your last breath, right? And the people who come into your life, maybe the children you birth or the friends that you have or the partnerships you make, they weren't there at the beginning, at the first breath. It is you from beginning to end. And that relationship with you, your nature, who you are, your essence, her message is you be you, truly you, wholly and perfectly you. And you can have that whole you. And when you step into the wholeness of you, then you can have a shared life with others that is very full. Distinctly you, they are distinctly them, but you are wholly, perfectly you. And so I loved that message, really loved that message. And today, the card of the day was the rose on my morning live. And the rose talked about this beautiful, fragrant flower, softness, beauty, aroma, but yet also is the bush with the thorns. And the
Yes.
bush with the thorns creates space and protection, right? And maybe harbors little birds and critters and things. But at the same time is this beautiful, fragrant flower. So distinctly protecting your space and your energy and being this very strong, beautiful vessel, this strong, protected vessel, but willing to crack open and break open from the bud and be this beautiful flower. And I think all of this ties together so well, honestly. So, so number one, remember this, number one, transformation is not loss. Number two, claim your ground, your nature, who you are. You're going to change, but you don't have to change to fit in. You don't have to dim your light. You don't have to water yourself down. You're not too potent that you need to dilute yourself. Be you, fully you, but change. You're going to go through changes, and that's okay. And then number three is she creates from herself, not from anybody else or anything else, but from her own self. She creates the Diné people. That nation of clans came from her, birth from her. She didn't need to borrow power outside of herself. She didn't say, hold on, let me go back and ask this guy over here in the sky who I had a couple of kids with. Let me ask him to help me. She took what she had herself and birthed these people from herself, created them from herself. And I think so many times we are waiting for the right time, the right circumstance, the right person, the right opportunity, and we have it all within us, right? Whatever she needed to create, she already had hers to, it was already hers to give. So many times we think we lack something, enough knowledge, enough wisdom, enough whatever. But this is to remind you, you have it within you. And so many times when I'm working with people in coaching or one-on-one with them or in a group or whatever situation that is, and I say this on my morning lives, you have survived 100% of your worst days. You have a perfect track record. And so if you doubt yourself, if you are fearful for the future of what it might bring, what are you fearing if you've handled everything that's come your way? You have it within you to do the hard things, to overcome all those things because you've done it again and again and again. And so her message to you is that you can create from scarcity, you can create you not from scarcity actually, you can create from yourself. Sorry, you don't have to scrap around what you have. You have you ever tried to make dinner and you're like, what am I cooking for dinner? And you're like, you're looking in the cupboards. What do I have in a can? What do I have in a fridge? What's in my freezer? Like, what can I put together and make a meal? She did not have to search around to decide what she created from herself. Can you imagine if you just never had to scrap around to put a meal together? You're just like creating it, done. How nice would that be? But these are her three key messages that I kind of took away as I was reading. And then this morning, on my live, the phases and the rose bush, I'm like, all of this is
It
just
all
fitting
goes.
into this story. It's very um synchronous, like to what we're going to say
Hmm.
today. And I thought this is so perfect. Cassandra, what were you thinking of things that kind of made you think like, oh, this is a lesson I can take from her or something that resonated with you?
Well, as from what you said, your last point is that, she can create from herself. She created from her dead skin cells, from things that were falling away from her. And I know it's a terrible picture in your mind,
Mhm.
but to me, it's the idea that we can create for something that we think is dead, from a cycle of our life that maybe we think has ended, that something else can come from that. There, there was a sales course I took several years ago that talks about seasons in our own career, which can go into all of our life in general too, right? So some seasons are going to be full of heavy and hardcore work, and then other seasons are going to be a little bit kind of like the winter. It's going to be a little lax, or it's a time where you rest and rejuvenate and you figure out what your next move is going to be. But a lot of times in my life, there's been instances where I thought, well, I can't create anything from this. I can't do anything with what I've ruined, what I've messed up, what I myself have put to rest. But something can be created from all of those moments. That's the lessons that we learn when relationships end, when friendships end, when we move on to different partners, to different jobs. We can take what we think is dead and we can transform it into something where we can create a different part of our life. So it moves from one cycle to the next, from one season to the next, by using the things that we might. I mean, even when we cut certain parts of plants off that we no longer need, that eventually becomes mulch for something else, that becomes dirt for something else. So we can use the things that we think are dead to create something beautiful, like she created the Diné people. I mean, from something that was lost. So that's my main message the main message to me was that even when we think a cycle is completely over and useless, we can use what we've learned from that into our next season and our next cycle. And I also loved the fact that she is still in existence and a creator. We we have so many religions where we have a sky god that is male, or I mean, even in I grew up Christian, so my Christian relationship with God was of a father that created. But we have a living, uninterrupted deity that is still creating today. And that to me is just beautiful. It gives me hope that if we spread these stories, that we can also inspire women to be their own creators too. That we can inspire people with feminine qualities to be creators of themselves too. So that was my main message, is that we can carry these stories, the ones that have kind of been hidden, and we can use them to create other things as well. So those were the things that I got excited about when I was reading about, of course, the changing woman. I can learn to change my own life.
One more aspect I want to bring up today is that change can be fearful for many people.
Mm,
People will often have fears come up around change because people like predictability. And maybe that comes from a childhood trauma of where things were never predictable and always unsettling. And so now, when you can do things predictably and prescribed in kind of a very set way, you feel safe. That is like a safety net for you. And so change can oftentimes be fearful. So understanding that there's going to be throughout our life, like you said, with jobs, relationships, whatever it may be, death moments, moments of complete change, of complete, like that is an ending. My time is ending at this job. My time is ending at this season of my life doing this particular thing. And now it's opening up the door and opportunity for something new to come on, either a new life, a new hobby, a new career, a new whatever that may be. And so we don't have to fear the parts of ourselves that are changing. I think some people fear aging. I don't want
yes.
to look old. I don't want to. I don't want to feel old. I don't want to have health issues. I don't want to have mobility issues. I want to be able to live my life fully and unencumbered. And I'm going to tell you something. My mother-in-law is 89. She is shocked when I tell her this fact because she has dementia. And people are like, she looks so young. And I think it's because she doesn't believe she's old.
Yeah.
She believes she's much younger. She is shocked to find out she has grandchildren in their mid and late 30s because in her mind, these kids are 12, 13, 18 years old forever. And I'm like, no, they're 33, 30, 36, 37. She's like, what? And she's like, "How old are you?" And I say, I'm 57 now. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, you look so young. I thought you were in your 40s." I'm like, "Thank you, girl." But but at the same time, it's the belief. And if you are fearing something, it's almost like you're praying for the very thing you don't want. You're putting
Yes.
all your energy into the fear. So do not fear the parts of yourself that are changing, right? And so, what am I going to do? And these are physical things you can do to care for yourself. What are important things? Well, my body is mostly water. So I'm best hydrate well, right? And drink water and care for myself. Food wise, I best be eating healthy foods. I best be eating a lot of protein to support my body, whether that is in plant-based or animal-based, depending on how your dietary needs are, right? And preferences. And so but I also need to like eat a variety. I need to eat a rainbow of colors because certain green leafy vegetables are going to carry different vitamins than the blueberries are going to carry and all those things. I need to sleep. I need to allow myself rest, good rest, full rest, because my body needs to reset. My cortisol levels need to calm down. I need to let my rest is for your body to reset. So these are all things and a little bit of movement. Let me tell you, I need to do more movement. I work in the yard and I'm edging and mowing and gardening and weeding. And then like the next day, I'm like, oh my gosh, I used some muscles. The other day, I was trying to hook up the pressure washer and I could not get the hose to attach to the unit. And I'm pushing it down and trying to get the grooves to catch. I was so sore in my muscle right here because I was pushing. And I'm like, oh, I don't use those muscles. I need to use those muscles a little more. So I think about my grandfather who lived into his 90s and would walk like 3 miles a day. And he
Mm.
also took a nap every day. My mother-in-law, she's so bothered. I can't take a nap and sleep during the day. I said, yes, you can. If you're tired, rest. I won't sleep at night. I said, yes, you will. I promise you will. I promise. So I look at those things and I look at how I take care of my body and it's going to age, right? I'm getting the wrinkles and I'm getting, this is getting a little deeper and that's okay. And the grays that frame my face and are on the, salt and pepper on the crown of my head underneath, they're here and there. But I love my gray. And my son said, "Oh,
You're
that's going to make you
silver.
look, it's going to make you look so old." I said, I'm not trying to not look old. I'm just trying to be me, naturally me. And I love all of it. And I call it the jewelry in my hair. It's my silver, right? And I love this age. I'm not trying to pretend to be 27 because I'm not 27. And God knows I don't want to be 27 again. I don't want to go back and have to relearn all the lessons I had to learn. The 27-year-old version of me sure didn't know the things the 57-year-old version of me knows, right? And so I think the fear of change, the fear of aging, the fear, like, sure, I know I'm going to age, but let me age optimally. Let me care for my body beautifully. And as there was a TikTok trend a couple years ago, and it was a filter that would take you and then age you out over like 30 years. I'm like, I'm gonna love this. I'm gonna love all of it. Let my hair go white for all I care. Like, get wrinkly. It's okay. It's totally okay. Changing woman's whole identity is built on the cycling of life, right? Birth, growing, aging, death, coming back around again, aging, death. So birth, growth, aging, death, birth, growth, aging, death. And she just is recycling year after year. And so it's really this permission slip of like, why are you fearing change? Change is inevitable. The seasons are changing, right? The days come shorter, the days go longer. And we are part of that nature. She exists in every version of herself. I already did the whole metaphor with the full moon, right? And nothing about changing seasons or changing forms ever threatens who you fundamentally are. The world goes through all these seasonal changes, and it doesn't change who the earth is. And it's opposite. What's happening down in Australia is the opposite of what's happening to me in the Northern Hemisphere, right? I am going from this season of summer and I'm going to move into fall, and they're in winter moving into spring. So, I mean, even within the earth as a whole, she's got it. She's like bipolar, literally bipolar, different aspects on different ends of the earth, right? And it's all good. And she's rotating through all these seasons and all these changes. And nobody's like, oh, girl, what are you doing changing? No, we understand it. We know it. And this is the same thing within the Diné people and this beautiful cosmology and this beautiful changing woman who is like embracing it and living it. And they are owning it too. And it's so funny. If you look at these indigenous people, they are so and not just the Dene, many other, they are so connected to the earth. So
Mm,
it just is so natural to them. Of course, the seasons are changing and she's changing. And so it feels beautiful. But for some of us who are disconnected from nature, who are living in this very modern, concrete, electrically charged, connected connectivity, our brains are going and we're not shutting down and we're not resetting. Maybe her message is get into nature a little bit.
mm.
Stop fearing all the things, connect with nature, connect with me, and embrace the changes in your life. Don't fear the change in your life. It is just a cycle. It is a cycle and a part of life, and celebrate yourself along the way.
And based off of what you just said about our cycles and that fear of aging, it made me think of a study that was done, I can't remember how many years ago, but it had people basically look into the mirror before they made financial decisions. And some of them looked into a mirror where they saw an older version of themselves. And so those people also had to write a quick letter to their future self before they made these financial decisions. And what they noticed is that the people that just looked into a mirror and just saw their present self made short-term decisions that didn't actually affect their future as much. But the people that looked in the mirror and saw an older version of them and had to write a letter to the older version of them made different financial decisions that affected their future differently. So they embraced their older version immediately, despite the fact that they knew that they were, in their 30s and their 20s, but they thought about themselves and what their future might look like if they kind of loved themselves a little bit differently. If they wrote a letter and said, okay, I'm going to do this for you. And so embracing that change is also just embracing that we can love the future version of ourselves even right now before we get there. We can learn to love who she is, who he is, and keep moving forward, probably in a different way if we know that we're preparing for our future, that we're loving future self too. So embracing the cycle and not being afraid of the cycle also kind of means that we have to love whoever it is that we're going to be in the future too. And that makes me excited too.
I love that. And that study makes such sense. When you're thinking long-term older, you're going to make long-term goals. And
Mm-hmm.
on the flip side of that, at 57, I look back at younger versions of me and I'm grateful for the change the younger version of me
Yes.
embraced. I'm grateful for the time that I left a job I had been at for 13 years and moved on to something else that has put me, like all those choices and decisions, put me here where I'm at right now, right? And where I work from home full time. How nice is that? How great is it when I have to be the caretaker for my mother-in-law and my husband who had massive ankle surgery and is still, having side effects of that, right? So I look at those younger versions of myself and the changes that she took on and decisions she made. And I'm looking back at her saying, thank you.
Because
Thank you
they
for
prepared you.
embracing the change. Thank you for making the change. Thank you for stepping out in new ways that might have felt
Mm,
uncomfortable or scary and having the faith to do it. And then when you thank that younger version of yourself, then you're more willing to make the change for your future self,
mm.
right? It's like it just is beautiful. Beautiful,
Loving the
beautiful.
maiden, the mother, and the crone all at one
Yep.
time.
Does anybody in the live right now with us have any questions that they want to ask or anything they want to put in the comment section? If you're watching this on a replay on our Facebook page or on YouTube, any comments you put in the comment section, I'm happy to respond and answer. Um, I'm not seeing anything pop up. I really appreciate you, Cassandra, and coming and co-hosting with me each month and loving all these different divine feminine. It's interesting because she created from just herself and nothing. She is still here. I just think her message is so great. And every week we're learning about another divine feminine. And the messages that have been coming through have been really powerful. And this was another one. So I'm excited to see what we'll talk about next month. And what will that be? Pull us a card.
All right, let's do this. And I also want to thank you too, because what we've learned from all of these divine feminine figures has just been so wonderful. And it makes me excited to share it with other people and put it out there in the world so that they can learn it too and maybe become empowered to share beautiful things, and it becomes a butterfly effect. So
Yes.
next week we're doing solace.
Okay.
Solace.
Nice.
Sulis. The tagline is actually illness and wellness. So both dualities. We will find
Duality.
out what she looks like in the next one. So I believe that's August the 9th is when we decided on.
August the 9th. We're
August the
going to
9th.
is our next Divine Feminine. Um, Again, you can sign up on my website. You go to my events page, and this is free, completely free. Obviously, I mean, not obviously, it's free, in case you were wondering. And so we invite you to join us live on the Zoom, or, if you have plans the day we're doing that, then definitely you can watch it on a replay on YouTube. Thank you, Cassandra. Thank you for always bringing us beautiful insights and stories and people that we haven't heard of, and some we have. So this has been a great series. Thank you all for being here and joining us this morning. And you guys have a great day. We'll see you guys next time on the Divine Feminine series. Bye, guys.